Legendary producer, writer, and director Chris Columbus has been talking lately, and he's been doing a lot of talking about some of his seminal filmography. And you know what? Just refreshing myself, because I always knew the guy was synonymous with the 80s and 90s, but I didn't realize, how much stuff he actually did at the time. Okay, granted, he did Gremlins and Goonies, Home Alone 1 and 2, but I didn't realize he also did Mrs. Doubtfire, which is tremendous. Back in the 90s, watching that, it was obvious that it was a comedy, but in hindsight, being what it is, and with a little bit of RP awareness, is that is a horror story if there ever was one. And Bicentennial Man, he did some really good work with Robin Williams. Bicentennial Man is the saddest shit you are likely to ever see. Oh my god, I remember watching it on cable for the first time, and it's just a robot that finally, very, very important in the coming years to really understand, what was established back then. But that's going to become quite prescient very shortly. But he also had, a couple of other movies, and we'll get to those very shortly. But he was attached to the original. Well, not the original one, that was Roger Corman, that never seen the light of day, but the 2005 Fantastic Four film, and that would have been interesting. I would have definitely liked to see that take, because he's a guy that I think he would have a very interesting, I think quite a compelling take on the Fantastic Four. Definitely better than Matt Shankman, Josh Trank. And to be fair, I don't even know who did the directing for the original Fantastic Four, but yeah, hearing what he has to say about this kind of leads into the next bit that we're going to be talking about here. But, his comments about how he was fired by Fox for the Fantastic Four movie, I basically said some of the conceptual art should feel more like Jack Kirby, the creator of the Fantastic Four, and should feel more like Silver Age Marvel. Yeah, it should be a little bit goofy. It should be a little bit, from the comic book purists that are out there, it's the Fantastic Four, it's quintessential comic book stuff. So yeah, if you want to go Silver Age stuff, straight out of the 60s, it would have been different, right? Because that was the thing. I remember, the Fantastic Four when it was first coming around at that point in time, and it's it just kind of looked like the rest of those early 2000s comic book movies. They were unremarkable, inoffensive, even if you don't want to compare them with what's coming out right now. But yeah, as much as I've watched, Blade, X-Men, speaking of Marvel specifically, I never got around to Fantastic Four, Daredevil. Hell, I watched Ghost Rider, for Christ's sakes, and that was definitely better. That is head and shoulders better than Iron Man 2 and 3. Mostly because they had a little bit of soul, they had a little bit of spirit. And that's, at least from the outside observer, that's kind of what that original Fantastic Four lacked. And that's what Chris wanted to interject. But I left the meeting, and then on the way back from my house, I got a call from the head of 20th Century Fox, saying, I was fired. Because he wanted to be faithful to the source material and to the setting and to the characters themselves. And you know what? I'm fine with that, man. And he's proven himself. He has a track record where if he wants to go with that, you got to give him a little bit of leeway. But Fox being Fox at that time decided to look a gift horse in the mouth, and well, there's a reason we're on the third iteration of the Fantastic Four, and outside of a joke, Marvel's not exactly champing at the bit to bring back any of those characters for a cameo. But what most people probably associate Chris Columbus so closely with are the first two Harry Potter movies, and he's been talking about those as well. And honestly, he's got a take. All right, let's get this out of the way. Original Harry Potter director saw photos of the new Hagrid wearing the exact costume we designed and thought, what's the point? It's more of the same. Now, okay, for somebody who knows, claims to know so much and wants to be so faithful to source material for one project, do you not quite understand why Warner Brothers and HBO want to go back to the Harry Potter well? Okay, here's the promise of the TV series as opposed to the movies, which, Philosopher's Stone, didn't the first one come out? Didn't that one come out in 99? So yeah, it's been a minute. Okay, that's an incredible amount of restraint from Warner Brothers, and, given the time that we're in with all of the requels, sequels, prequels, midquels, and all that crap, yeah, it's amazing that a Harry Potter reboot hasn't been trotted out. I guess they were trying with those Fantastic Beasts movies to continue that story, to continue to wet their beak in the Harry Potter well. well, but we all kind of know how those petered out so spectacularly. Oh no, it was 2001 when the Sorcerer's Stone came out, and then Chamber of Secrets a year later. Man, what a spectacular filming schedule they had, man. Anyways, Chris Columbus, who originally brought Harry Potter to the big screen as a director in 2001, The Sorcerer's Stone, in 2002, Chamber of Secrets. Personally, as a fan of the movies, my two least favorite movies, those are the ones that, they're just kind of that wall preventing me from going back and watching through the series again. Like, I can look over and I can see all 8 of the DVD, the 8 Blu-rays that I have a few other collections and shit like that. When I like something, I buy it multiple times over because I'm silly like that. But he recently appeared on the Rest is Entertainment podcast and questioned HBO's upcoming series reboot after he saw set photos of Nick Frost as Hagrid. Columbus cast Robbie Coltrane as the iconic Hogwarts groundskeeper. Yeah, and here's the thing, man. That original cast for those movies, I mean, even when they did have to recast because Dumbledore was too fucking old, Richard Harris dropping dead, and, getting Michael Gambon, how do you nail it twice over? And all of the casting was perfect. Even though you'll have some book Puritans, that's a story that's going to pop up again, just having problem with Snape. I just wonder if they're going to have those same complaints. Oh, Alan Rickman is too good looking. He's too old to be Snape. I wonder if we're going to hear those same complaints about Papa Esiadu when the show starts up next year. Just wondering. But yeah, outside of that, everybody else, like, for the movies and for this show, like, it's amazing casting. So I'm seeing these photographs, and Nick Frost is wearing the exact same costume that we designed for Hagrid. Part of me is like, what's the point? Columbus said. I thought the costume was everything. Everything was going to be different, but it's more the same. It's all going to be the same. Yeah, but here's the thing. Drawing from the source material, you ended up designing, like a fairly accurate costume for Hagrid. There's a reason that they're keeping it as it is, but your premise is already faulty. Okay, I thought the costumes and everything was going to be different. Well, Warner Brothers is going to be using a bunch of the sets that they have for Hogwarts specifically. I don't know if anything else is going to carry over. So, no, that wasn't the case. And the entire idea for this series is to better flesh out the source material, because as far as I know from the people that know the Harry Potter source material better, Chamber, Stone, and Prisoner of Azkaban, they're the ones that are the most faithful to the books, at least from the material that they pulled from there. Things start to go a little bit wonky from there, but I think the most egregious offense is probably Half-Blood Prince. And again, to invoke Snape, it's going to be interesting once that series rolls around, how integral that naming convention is going to be. It's very flattering for me because it's like, that's exactly the Hagrid costume we designed. So part of it's really exciting. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it. Part of it is sort of deja vu all over again. And you know what? Here's another thing, right? Because Chris Columbus says I'm done with Harry Potter, calls J.K. Rowling controversy very sad. This kind of sounds like, right? Because I don't know if he's so much in director's jail, because he's a legendary guy in the business. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He ruled several decades. He produced a bunch of banger titles as well to complement his directorial and his writer's suite. Just like kind of sounds like potentially you're a little bitter that nobody called you up and offered you an EP spot or maybe an opportunity to direct something here or there. But him saying, it's going to be more the same, it's very much not the case, and somewhat similar to something I remember from a couple years back when Rings of Power was wrapping up its first season. Theoden himself, Theoden King, Bernard Hill, slams Rings of Power as a money-making venture, not interested in watching it, mostly because, what was his statement on this? It's a money-making venture, and I'm not interested in it. Good luck to them and all that stuff, but it's not like the real thing. Hill was then asked if Lord of the Rings franchise should have ended after Peter Jackson wrapped his original trilogy with Return of the King, which the actor responded completely yes. I think they're pushing it when they made The Hobbit. I tend to agree. The Hobbit's a tiny book. Yeah, it's about 250 pages, and he made it into 3 movies. Oh, yeah, all right. You can. There is material that you can flush out that, Tolkien eventually did, with the Silmarillion and with unfinished tales about what Gandalf was doing over in Dol Guldur. Like, you can go ahead, and you can have the White Council in there. All of it does make sense and line up. It's just, unfortunately, what they did was really kind of ass. but they expanded it, but they can only stretch a piece of elastic so far, and I think they managed that with The Hobbit, because there were some really good things in The Hobbit. Again, Hail Theoden King, he nails it, without a doubt. Now, Phil will never know what's in Rings of Power, as he refuses to watch it. The showrunner of the series have mapped out a 5-season plan. We'll see if that ends up being a 5-season plan, or if it's like, oh, we got 3 seasons, and we're going to have, the special about the War of the Last Alliance. Definitely, that was always the plan. 50 hours, right? Not 50 episodes. But the Rings of Power is supposed to be telling, the stories and the highlights of the Second Age, right? So it is fundamentally different than what Peter Jackson did, because, both of his trilogies were set very much in the Third Age. And there are stories to tell earlier in that age as well. Isildur's reign, the establishment of Rohan, the fall of Gondor, the wars of Angmar. There's a bunch of fun stuff that you can go ahead and depict. It's just, I wouldn't trust anybody in today's day and age. So to say, Lord of the Rings content should have wrapped up, when we just knocked it out the park back in 2003, I mean, there are more stories to tell. And in the case of Christopher Columbus coming along, this is why I think that it's analogous. What's the point? It's more of the same. Yeah, it's just from the highlights that you were telling, there's still more book there. There's still more source material to properly flush out. And that's what you're hopefully getting with, 8 to 10 episodes per season. So 8 or 9 hours of content, as opposed to 2.5 hours for the movies per book, per season. And if you're supposed to be faithful to the books, and you did a good job with your casting, you did a good job with your set and costume design, of course, hey, this is one case. This is one of those instances where drawing on nostalgia, jangling those keys, just dropping in a couple of member berries here and there, going, that looks like Hagrid. I remembered that's Hagrid's coat. Oh, that's Hogwarts. Oh my god, they got the lectern with the owl, and they got all the melty candles. Oh, it's so great. Oh my god, remember the sorting hat? Gonna be very awkward when Snape sat right up there at the front of the hall, and then all the kids got their pointy hats on. It's just, I don't know how they're gonna fucking work around that, but we'll see when we get there. But yes, there is a point to this, and this is one of those. This is one of those situations where a reboot actually justifies itself. Rings of Power very much could have been that thing, okay? An extrapolation on a well-established, much beloved series, because there are other stories to tell. It's just, we kind of know what happened with Rings of Power, and I really hope that it's diametrically different in the case of this Harry Potter show, because for as much as Black Snape is putting me off, if it's a good show, I mean, it'll be really tough to pry me away from it. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.